All right, guys, after about 2 weeks of kind of a whole ordeal trying to get the correct wheel and spindle for this H&S hay tedder, it's finally here. So we are going to continue with the assembly. If you haven't seen this, starting with new iron is here video and tedder assembly 1 and 2. If you were following along, those are the videos before this one. So we're going to keep on with the assembly here and try to get this thing put together. All right, guys, we got it on its wheels. Now I can move it, at least move it around the shop here. We got a right and a left. So if anybody's wondering, the spindles are supposed to go forward. They're supposed to be pitched forward like that, and the wheels are on the inside. That's the correct way on the diagram and how these tedders are. I know I had comments both ways, but this is correct. Your spindle's going to come down and pitch forward. And the other wheel assembly that I had, there was no way you're going to do that because I had 2 right wheel assemblies. So anyway, it's on its wheels. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to start putting some of the tines on and the tine arms on. We'll get those put on. I'm going to assemble them with some anti-seize in case we ever have to change them, and we don't want anything to rust here. So we're still making progress, so I'm going to start putting these on. They are right and left, depending on depending on which one you have over there. There's a right one and a left one. You want the spring action here. You'll notice there's a coil spring here on your tine, and you want it to be able to spring back. You want it to spring because it's going to be spinning in, and we want to put both on both sides. I'll show you what I mean when I start assembling them. So we'll start putting them on. I forgot my battery for my impact gun, so I have to run up and get it. So let's finish the assembly here. And it's like 45 today, but it's chilly. This is north, and the wind's coming out of the north, and this is a cold shed because of that, because it faces north. So that way is Canada. So hello to everybody from Canada. You're right up there somewhere. So anyway, all right, I'm going to start assembling this. All right, so when assembling these tine arms here, you'll take notice there's 2 holes in them, and up under here, see right there, there's a threaded rod that comes down. That's part of the center gearbox assembly. And then you have these bolts out here in the end. They are metric, like I said. Putting anti-seize on them, and then we're going to crank them down. And they are lock nuts on here, on the outside here. These are lock nuts. They have that nylon locking ring in the nut itself. So let's get some more of these put on here. All right, so we've got one side all assembled here. Fairly simple, straightforward to do. Now we want to try to get the other side all assembled. I have it prepped and ready to go. I do want to make a video of the flaws of this thing. Not so much, I didn't have it in the field yet, so I don't know what those flaws are going to be. But there are some things in the build quality and in the design quality I want to cover, and it's probably going to make its own video, just because there's a few things I want to go into, some things I found with this that I don't like, that aren't very major, but are probably drive me nuts. So we'll save that video for its own video. So let's get the other side assembled here. All right, so we got the tines on both sides. You will see that the timing on this gearbox is correct. We didn't have tines hitting each other. Looks pretty good anyway. So I just have to tighten these down yet. I did tighten down the other side. So I'm just going to use my battery impact and wrench. Like I say, metric hardware. I'm just using an adjustable. So let's get this side tight yet. All right, guys, we've got this H&S tedder just about finished. We're getting near the end here. I want to thank those who corrected me about this here, this piece of metal that I wasn't sure where it went. Like I said, this is my first tedder like this, so I wasn't too familiar, but it is the lock. You guys are right that it goes in here, and it slides down like that to lock the tine arms when you're in transport mode. And then this clip here goes right there like that. So thank you guys for correcting me. So the transport position then should be here. Unless it gets flipped around the other way, we'll have to see. So we got that all figured out, got that all assembled. Next, we are going to put the power takeoff shaft on, I think. So I want to get my anti-seize, and I want to get in here and put some on this PTO shaft here. So if we ever do have to get it off, it'll just slide right off. So let's get that done. All right, so we got our anti-seize on. I want to grease this PTO shaft before I put it on, at least the inside part. I want to talk about this PTO shaft a little bit here. You'll notice there's a grease fitting here on this, and then there's a grease fitting on your universal, and there's a spring-loaded shaft here to be able to put it on and off. This here I would say is a clutch, maybe a safety clutch, an overrun clutch, if you get everything bound up. This does take grease, and seems to be pretty well built for the size of the tedder. It actually seems like a fairly large PTO shaft. One thing I noticed that they changed is that this isn't a plastic anymore that can crack or dry out. This is like a, I don't know if it's like a thick rubber or a solid, like a rubber plastic hybrid or something, but you'll notice it's kind of flexible. Now this front here, yeah, that's the old style plastic, but I'm wondering why they went to a rubber there. Maybe, I don't know. But it is nice. You're not gonna maybe not have some of the trouble that you have with these plastic shields. And of course we have these chains. The verdict's still out whether I'm gonna use them or not. So let's get this greased and get this installed. All right, so it didn't take much grease. They had it greased from the factory already, 1 or 2 pumps. Just slips right on basically. And I'm guessing there's no way to grease this power takeoff shaft with this shield around it. So I'm guessing if you're ever gonna have to grease this thing, probably you're gonna have to pull that collar and slide it off and grease it out here and then put it back in. It's just the way it seems. This is what I'm talking about with these safety chains. I always take them off. So I'm sure there are guys that are, I'm not, all right, I'll put it this way. I'm not going to condone taking or modifying anything to affect the safety on your equipment. It's not good to make modifications that would compromise safety. So that'll be my stand. But with that being said, they give you these clips back here to clip these chains into. That's what they're for. They have this shield with these places clipped. So anyway, if you have that clipped, you got this chain hanging down where your tedder's spinning. So you could clip it off to the side here if you wanted to, but it's still gonna hit your, they're coming off. But I don't condone doing that. All right, and it's going to be the same deal with the front set of safety chains. You can clip this to your tractor or somewhere around your 3-point arms as a safety measure. Basically, it's just to hold this center shaft so your power takeoff shaft can spin inside. They don't want the shield spinning, so it doesn't. If it gets bound up or something, I don't know. I think they need to design a better system of holding these shields fast. I don't know what they can do, but I've seen these chains wrapped up in more stuff already. I've seen them lost out in the field. Guys put them on their 3-point arms and they turn too sharp and they break off. They get wrapped up in the power takeoff shaft. I mean, they get stuck on your clothes. You trip over them. These here, I think, having loose chains on a power takeoff shaft, loose chains that can get caught places and can fly around and can get stuck places, I think are more of a safety hazard to the operator than just having nothing on at all and just watching where you walk. So that's my, I'll get off my whatever you want to call it here. I just don't like them. I always took them off everything. It depends on your equipment also. Some equipment, they will work. For this tedder, it's just going to be a nightmare. So, but again, safety is our #1 priority here. All right, guys, this H&S tedder is all assembled, this 2-star tedder. I'll just do a quick walk around. You guys can get a sense of what it looks like all assembled here. All I have to do yet is grease it, finish greasing everything, and check the oil in the gearbox, and then we're ready to get this hooked to a tractor and give it a test run here. I want to do that here in the end of this video. Do have a couple things to go over yet in the Titan, just to double check some things, but it's assembled. Like I say, I am going to do a video on some of the issues with it that I don't care for, but we'll save that for another day. So we got it all on here. I'm going to grease it. I'll show you where the grease fittings are yet, and we'll check the oil in the gearbox and hook it up to the 395 here and run it. All right, so just a quick rundown on grease fitting locations. You have one on your universal there, one on your universal there, and one back a little further there. You have one here on the top of each rotor, and if you walk around here, you have one down at your wheel. Your wheel assemblies, there's no grease fittings on. It's probably sealed bearings. So from the looks of it here, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 grease fittings on this tedder is what I'm seeing. So let's get grease in them and check the gearbox oil. All right, guys, and one thing I noticed with grease or types of grease, guys get very passionate about which type of grease you should use for what. It's the same with which type of oil you should use. People tend to get in arguments and fights over it, so I'm not going to add anything to the conversation. All I will say is I use red grease and black grease, and I have different applications for each. So that's about all I want to add to the conversation. And my favorite grease gun by far is a pistol grip grease gun with a long flexible rubber hose. That's all I used for 10 years at a equipment dealership. I'm not familiar with the battery powered ones. I don't know how long they last or anything. Haven't really looked into it, and I've been using these so long that it would be hard to get away from them. I do have a lever one also, just in case. Sometimes you need a lever depending on how hard of a grease fitting you have. So yeah, red grease and black grease, and they have their different uses. And it does say important grease all rotors, see manual. So all right, this is your main gearbox here in the center. This is the only gearbox on this tedder that has any type of oil in it. Your fill plug is up on top here, and your check plug is right here. So we're gonna crack this open and check. Maybe we'll level the tedder so it's sitting level. Of course, if it's pitched forward, you can put a little more in. I don't know, we have to look. I'll see where the level is and go from there. All right, so the oil level is good. One thing I just noticed on this gearbox here in the center, it doesn't have a breather on it. You see gearbox breathers on a lot of rotary cutters and some other applications. I don't know if I like that or not on this. It depends on how hot it's going to get, how fast it's moving. But when I took the plug out, I heard a pop like that there was air in there as the temperature changes. And the main thing with the breather is you don't want to build up air pressure in your gearbox that it starts to push your seals or causes some problems in there. So I don't know if I like that or not. I should do a little research on it and see, but I'd almost think that gearbox should have a breather unless it's designed different. I don't know. It's something to look into, but it's kind of odd not seeing it there. So anyway, let's get it hooked up and run it here. All right, guys, we got it all hooked up here. The Case International 395 is probably going to do the majority of the tedding and raking this summer, assuming I don't have any issues with it. So we're going to do this live here. As far as I didn't run this yet, I have no idea what it's going to do, so we'll put it on YouTube if it flies apart. But it's on. I didn't have to cut the power takeoff shaft that I know of. Depending on what tractor you're going to use it on, you may have to do that to make it fit better. This should be all right. So let's see what we got here. And as a matter of fact, I haven't used the power takeoff on this tractor since I brought it home, so maybe this won't work either. So we got a lot of things that could go wrong here. So let me just get in a position, get a better camera angle here. That'll work. We'll put our power takeoff in gear here at an idle. right, so there it's spinning, just idling here. Let's throttle it up a little bit. And one thing I noticed with these 2 stars or these star tethers, they spin way faster than that Peckway fluffer tether, that 710 I have. This is way faster than, it's a lot more violent on the hay, and it's a lot of the reason the guys buy those 710 fluffer tethers. More so for alfalfa because of the leaves. You want to keep the leaves on the stem, you don't want to knock your leaves off. So that's about 1100 RPMs. And it's just whipping away there. Seems to be fairly smooth. I don't see anything shaking or rattling around. So, this works out. Looks like it's going to work out. I'll post a video on the things I don't like about it and go from there. So let's put the throttle up a little bit. About 1500 RPMs. So that's about what you're going to ted at, maybe a little less. Alright guys, thanks for watching.